Okay, today we'll be covering a really simple workflow where we're connecting Make and Notion together. So why do you want to connect Make and Notion? Okay, Notion, really useful tool. There's tons you can do within Notion. So you might be using it for database, for productivity tool, for maybe your inventory, which we're going to be looking at in a minute. All these things are great, but there are sometimes limitations on the things you can actually do within Notion. So pushing your data, pushing your information through to Make gives you tons more options for what you can actually achieve. Specifically in this tutorial, we're going to be looking at a store inventory, and we're going to set up an example where the stock is being monitored in that inventory. If the stock changes, it triggers an alert that's pushed through to Make. Make checks whether we want to generate an alert from that stock change. If so, we push that through via an email alert. Okay, so we're going to start off in Make. If this is the first time you're in Make, this is the main dashboard. I'm not going to go into any detail about this, but the first place we want to start is the create a new scenario. So I'm just going to hit the create a new scenario button up here, and this takes us into a new scenario. First thing we want to do is give it a useful name. So this big plus sign is where we click to bring up our apps that we want to connect within Make. And the first thing we want to select here is webhooks, which is the method we're going to use to connect Make and Notion. The best way to describe a webhook is a way to instantly send data automatically from one app to another when something changes. So under webhooks, going to choose this custom webhook trigger. And so what this is going to do is when we create a webhook, let's save that. So when we've saved that, we get this URL here, and we can copy that address to the clipboard. Okay, here we are in Notion, and what we're seeing here is an inventory items database that I've got set up already. So what you see are typical fields that you might see in any usual inventory database, and lots of different records as well. So all of these are items in a hypothetical online store. Okay. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to be watching for changes within the stock quantities. So this field is called quantity in stock. What's already set up here is that when a stock quantity changes, it compares it against this other value, which is called reorder level. So it uses that to make a decision on whether the stock health is affected. So for example, the reorder level of this item is 10. It's currently at 10, which means it's reading as low. But if we were to put that to 0, it appears as out of stock. Okay, so there's a formula behind the scenes, which I won't go into. We want to watch out for changes to this quantity field. When there's changes, we want this value to be sent through via webhook. And we also want to push through the name of the item so that we know what has changed. Okay, so we want to look for our automations tab, which is up here on the right hand side. So I'm clicking in there. What you can see in this window is a very basic automation setup. So we have an option to decide on a when trigger and a do trigger. Okay, so from in when we can do things like monitor changes in fields, and within do there's lots of different things, actions that can be taken. So you might wonder why we wouldn't use this automation that's built in with Notion. You know, why are we actually pushing this value through to Make anyway? You know, what's the value there? Well, the built-in automations in Notion are really interesting, really powerful. There's a lot you can do with them, but there are limitations, and it is a feature that's being developed still. So quite a lot of the time it makes sense to push things through to Make or other automation apps where we can make things happen that we just couldn't do within this native automations window in Notion. Okay, with that in mind, what we're going to do is going to set a trigger, which is to do with the change in the stock value. So we go to new trigger, and I'm looking at quantity in stock, and I'm going to select this is edited. So the trigger will be when this quantity in stock field is edited. Okay, we want to, yeah, and you can see all of these different things that we could be doing here, but what we're going to do is select the send webhook, and we've discussed this already. We know the URL. Just going to grab that URL again from Make and paste it in here. Okay, so you can see these are all options for what you can actually send via this webhook. You can send everything if you want. In this situation, we have two fields we want to send. We're going to send item name, and we're going to send the stock health. With that all done, I'm going to hit enable. What we want to do at this point in make is to test the scenario. So we're going to click this button that says run once. So it's listening for data. We go into Notion here, and if we change, let's say we want to change this value up to, we've had some new stock on the cashmere blankets. We're going to go up to 12. We can see that stock level is okay, is the message that we're getting in Notion now. And then if we go in here, we can see in this this debug window we've got the data that has come out, and we can see in there, if we dig into these properties, you can see, yeah, it's the cashmere blend throw blanket from the URL and the item name we have. Yeah, that's item name in plain text format, and then we also have the stock health string being returned stock levels okay, great. So that we can see now that using webhooks, the data is being monitored from Notion, is being sent through when that trigger happens using the built-in Notion automations, and is being received successfully in Make. The next step then is to set up our email module in Make. Click this button that says add another module, and this time we want a email. Can't see it right away, so you've got this little search bar, which is quite useful, and we've got email, which is a built-in module. Clicking on this, and we want to send an email. Now, there is a bit of setup involved with this, because obviously email is relying on your email provider. So that could be Google, Yahoo, could be something to do with your own domain. So I'm not going to go into the specifics of how you set that up, but essentially it's to do with finding your email settings from your domain provider. It's similar to how you would set up any email app like Outlook, like something on your phone, and there's different options for how you do that, but the online help here is really useful. So, and they've got almost got guides for every single possible app, so I would follow that if you've got any issues. I'm going to select an SMTP connection, which I've got already in place, and just running through these fields then. So I'm not going to worry about this save message after sending, we're not going to go into that. So we want to add a recipient. This is the person who receives the email when we send it from here, and I'm going to use this address. You can, as you can see, you can add multiple recipients as well. You could have a whole list of people. Subject, I'm going to go for something simple here, but you can see popping up all these values which have come from the webhook. So these are all different values. These are all data that are being passed through from the webhook from Notion, and you could actually use any of these values in your subject or in the content of your email. So I'm not going to use these in the subject, but I am going to use these in the content. So let's just keep that simple. Content type, you've got HTML plain text. I'm going to go for plain text in the content here. So let's go for something like okay, so hi there, just to let you know, we've got a new stock alert from your Notion database. The status of item has now changed to whatever, right? So how do we pass this value through? Status of item, we need the item name here. So we're going to need to find that from the data that's been passed via webhook. It's under properties. Sometimes you need to dig around within these values to find exactly the right thing. Under item name, you can see beside every value name, there's the actual data that's been passed through the last time we pulled it in, right? So in that test that we ran a minute ago, we pulled through this item cashmere blend throw blanket. So this is useful because you can tell you've got sample data that gives you an idea of what is contained within each one of these values. So I want this plain text value for the item name so that I can pass it into my email content. And then I want the stock alert status that's been passed through as well. And this is going to be under stock health. And you can see the string value here, which has been brought in from a formula. So I'm going to just click on that. And so now that should build up the content of the email that we want to send. You can also do things like send attachments. Not going to dig into that right now, but I'll just hit save here. I'd also recommend hitting save on the scenario because I've had a few situations where things haven't saved. Okay, so let's just keep an eye on that. Now, let's test this by running the scenario and checking that we receive an email as we would expect. So running is waiting for data, so I'm going to go back into my Notion and change this to a new stock alert. It's received that, and we can see it's been successful. It will throw up errors if there are problems, but you can see that this has been successful. So if I go and check my email inbox, got a bit of a typo there, but we can see that the item name is being passed through, and the stock alert message is being passed through as well. So that's great. Now, you might have noticed that this is a stock alert about stock levels being okay. It wouldn't really be very useful if you received an email every time the stock level was okay. So we want to change this so that you're only sending emails if there's a problem, if the stock level is low, right? Otherwise, it's not that useful. Okay, what we want to do next is to add a filter in Make, and now the filter is accessed via this little icon that appears between every single connection. Okay, so I'm going to click on this little spanner, set up a filter, and we want to give the filter a useful name. So checking for low stock. And in here you've got your conditions, and this is like any kind of filter you might see. So you set up the condition, and it checks for that condition to make a decision based on that. So condition, first one I want to look at is I'm going to check that low stock message contains low, the text low. Okay, so that's string value, and you've got all these, they're called operators. So we're just testing for different things like, is it equal to, is it not equal to, does it contain. I'm choosing this contains case insensitive because I want to test the string that's being pulled in to see if it contains the words that I specify, and it's case insensitive. So I'm going to say low. So that's checking whether the stock health message appears the text low. Okay, so there's two scenarios that covers, and then we'll do an OR as well. So we want to do the same thing, check that string contains case insensitive, and no. So what's that's doing is checking the message for the word no. And so there are 3 low and no stock messages that we will be receiving from Notion. Those 3 messages should be covered off by these 2 conditions in the filter. Run that to test, and I'm going to go back into Notion and set something up with that's out of stock. Okay, so it's got that through, and we're looking pretty good. I'm going to check my email now, and yeah, you can see that this item has been set to out of stock reorder now. To run the scenario again, I'm going to check this time for a low stock. So for example, okay, that's low, and then yeah, all good, just change to low, reorder now. And then how about if we have a situation where the stock is okay still? So let's set up an example like that. Sorry, I did the wrong thing, I didn't hit run once. Wait for new data. Let's go for Ocean Breeze Scented Candle. Stock levels are now okay with the Ocean Breeze Scented Candle. Is that going to be passed through? Yeah, we're seeing that. Nice. Now you can see we've still got 0 on the filter, and if we check our email, nothing's come through. So that's showing that the filter it's checked for low and no in the message, and because it's not containing that, it's filtering that out, right? So it's not sending the email. And there you can see we have a pretty nice setup where it's checking for a change in stock, it's checking the message that it's received about the stock status, and it's deciding whether or not to send an alert email based on that message that it's received. Okay, so now we've got a little automated system that's checking for stock. It's sending automated alerts when stock's running low. You could totally tweak and change this to your own personal needs. So for example, maybe instead of email, you want to update that to be like a Slack alert. Maybe you want to push some of that data into Google Sheets to do different things with it. Maybe a Microsoft kind of example too. So in future videos, we're going to go into a lot of detail about Make, Notion, other various apps that you can use to connect things together and do interesting stuff. And if you enjoyed this video, if you got a lot out of this video, you know what to do. Like and subscribe for more automation tips. Thanks for stopping by.